And it was similar to my own show. It's a bunch of guests at the same time. So I did the first show. I thought it went well. And but then I got a call from the head honcho at the radio station, wanting to take me out for lunch to discuss that show and maybe give me some advice.
Before we get into it, make sure you hit like, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment with your thoughts, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss the next story. Because this one gets uncomfortable fast. For more than 2 decades, Graham Norton has ruled late-night television with razor-sharp wit, champagne-fueled banter, and a couch famous for controlled chaos. The Graham Norton Show built its reputation on celebrities letting their guard down just enough to be entertaining. But beneath the laughter, Norton has quietly carried memories he avoided talking about for years. 7 guests, he later admitted, stood apart from the rest. Not awkward, not nervous, but dark. People whose behavior felt calculated, unsettling, and in his words, the most disturbing I've ever encountered. And once you hear what happened, it's impossible to watch their movies the same way again. Number 1. Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg's appearance on The Graham Norton Show didn't just derail the episode, it detonated it. To this day, it remains the only moment in the show's long history where Graham Norton visibly struggled to maintain control. From the second Wahlberg walked on stage, something felt off. He wasn't simply relaxed, he was gone. His speech was slurred, his confidence unnaturally inflated, and whatever filter usually kept him in check was completely absent. A slightly tipsy guest isn't unusual on Norton's couch, but this wasn't that. Wahlberg was fully intoxicated, and it showed almost immediately. He interrupted constantly, barged into other guests' stories, and launched into rambling jokes that trailed off halfway through. The laughter in the studio began to thin, replaced by uneasy shifting in seats. Even Sarah Silverman, someone who thrives in chaos, kept glancing toward Norton, her expression silently asking, "Is this really happening?" Then came the moment that crossed the line. Without warning, Wahlberg stumbled across the couch, climbed directly into Graham Norton's lap, threw an arm around his shoulders, and began whispering drunken jokes into the host's ear. Norton forced a smile, but the tension was unmistakable. His eyes flicked between the cameras, the audience, and somewhere off stage, as if hoping someone would step in. The crowd laughed, not because it was funny, but because no one knew how else to react. When the cameras finally stopped rolling, the mood shifted instantly. Graham Norton stood up, walked straight to his dressing room, and said only one sentence before closing the door. He will never be back, ever. That was Graham Norton's final word on Mark Wahlberg. Norton later admitted that Wahlberg was completely out of it, and the interview became one of the very few episodes he never wanted to rewatch. The chaos didn't end when Wahlberg finally left the couch either. It lingered in the studio, rippled across social media, and quietly closed a door forever. They have not spoken since that night. Wahlberg has occasionally joked in private about getting too drunk on that British show, brushing it off as harmless excess. But behind the scenes, Graham Norton's team took it far more seriously. There is a standing internal note that's never been lifted. Do not book Mark Wahlberg, under any circumstances. For Norton, it wasn't personal, it was professional. It was the most unmanageable, unpredictable, and deeply uncomfortable guest experience of his entire career. Number 2, Harvey Weinstein. The tension between Graham Norton and Harvey Weinstein didn't build slowly. It exploded the moment Weinstein walked onto the stage. From the start, Weinstein didn't behave like a guest. He behaved like an owner. Norton felt it instantly. Within seconds, Weinstein hijacked the conversation, talking over jokes, interrupting other guests mid-sentence, and redirecting every topic back to himself. Norton wasn't hosting a chat show anymore. He was competing for oxygen. "I knew right away he was going to bulldoze everything," Norton later admitted. "He took over the room like he owned it." That wasn't hyperbole. It was exactly what happened. Every time Norton tried to move the segment along, Weinstein dragged it back to his films, his achievements, his influence. The atmosphere tightened. The humor drained out of the room. At one point, Norton attempted a light joke to diffuse the tension. Weinstein didn't laugh. He stared at him and replied flatly, "Let's talk about something serious." The studio froze. It wasn't just dismissive, it was a warning. Years later, after Weinstein's empire collapsed, Norton finally said out loud what he had sensed that night. "I didn't know what he'd done," Norton admitted, "but I knew something was wrong. That energy, that entitlement. It all makes sense now." Weinstein did not take kindly to being criticized, even after the truth came out. He was reportedly furious that a talk show host had dared to call him out publicly, especially when so many powerful figures in Hollywood had stayed silent for decades. But for Graham Norton, the damage had already been done the moment Weinstein sat down. Their feud never needed a second chapter. It ended the moment Harvey Weinstein's crimes reached the courts. Graham Norton cut all ties. No sympathy, no softening, no contact. As far as Norton is concerned, their relationship exists exactly as it should. Non-existent. Permanent. Done. Number 3. Robert De Niro. If there's one thing that irritates Graham Norton more than outright rudeness, it's refusal. Refusal to engage. Refusal to play along. Refusal to participate. And that is precisely what Robert De Niro brought to the Graham Norton show. Norton later described the experience with brutal accuracy. It was like trying to interview fog. The tension began the second De Niro sat down. Norton felt it immediately. The clipped nods, the distant gaze, the way De Niro's attention seemed to drift elsewhere whenever a question was asked. There was no anger, no ego on display, just an icy absence that made every line of conversation fall flat. Norton tried everything: warmth, humor, gentle teasing. De Niro met each attempt with the same impenetrable minimalism. At one point, Norton asked about one of De Niro's iconic characters, clearly hoping for a story, a smile, at least a flicker of nostalgia. De Niro shrugged and muttered, "I don't really talk about that stuff." The studio went quiet. It wasn't hostile. It was worse. It was dismissive. After the episode aired, Norton didn't bother pretending otherwise. He admitted publicly, "Some interviews are hard work. Robert's was very hard work. He gives you so little, you start sweating." It sounded less like a complaint and more like a confession of exhaustion. De Niro, for his part, offered no apology and no explanation. He simply reinforced the wall Norton had spent the entire night trying and failing to climb. When asked later about his notoriously frosty talk show appearances, De Niro summed it up bluntly. "I don't perform on couches. I do the job, then I go home." It wasn't aimed directly at Graham Norton, but it didn't need to be. "Don't expect anything from me I don't want to give." That, in essence, was the message. There was never a blow-up to repair, no argument to smooth over, just a gap that neither man felt any urge to close. Graham Norton never invited Robert De Niro back. De Niro never showed the slightest interest in returning. The silence between them became permanent, and both seemed perfectly comfortable leaving it that way. Number 4. Daryl Hannah. Of all the guests Graham Norton has struggled with over the years, Daryl Hannah remains the one that still makes him wince. Norton can handle chaos. He can even handle ego. What he cannot survive is silence so heavy it suffocates the room. And that is exactly what happened the moment Hannah sat down on the red sofa. The fracture began within the first 20 seconds. Norton offered his usual warm welcome, friendly and inviting. Hannah responded with a faint smile and a single word: "Hi." That was it. The distance was immediate and unmistakable, cutting through the studio like a chill. Norton tried to pivot, asking about her films, her activism, her past roles. Every question came back the same way: short, clipped, lifeless. "Yes. Not really. I don't know." The audience felt it too. Laughter thinned out. The other guests began filling the silence out of sheer necessity, stepping in where conversation should have been flowing naturally. Norton kept trying, first gently, then with the playful nudging he uses when a guest needs warming up. Nothing worked. There was no cracking the shell. Hannah appeared entirely unwilling to engage, leaving the show struggling to breathe. After the episode aired, Norton didn't pretend otherwise. He admitted openly, "It felt like she'd been dragged there. I could not get her to engage. Longest interview of my life." Those close to the show agreed. She wasn't hostile, she wasn't rude, she simply wasn't there. For a program built on energy and interplay, that absence was fatal. No bridges were repaired afterward. Years later, when asked about the appearance, Hannah responded with her trademark minimalism. "Talk shows aren't really my thing." No explanation, no apology, no attempt to reconnect. Today, their relationship mirrors that interview perfectly. Cold, distant, and completely untouched by time. Norton has never invited her back. Hannah has never asked to return. Both seem perfectly content, leaving that silence exactly where it is. Number 5. Mickey Rourke. The moment Mickey Rourke stepped onto the Graham Norton show, the atmosphere changed, the air tightened. Norton opened with his usual warmth and effortless charm, and Rourke answered with a vacant nod that instantly shut the room down. It was the kind of response that tells a host, in a split second, this is going to be work. Norton tried again, asking about Rourke's latest film. The reply came back flat and lifeless. "Yeah, I don't know. Whatever." No context, no follow-up, just a conversational dead end. The audience chuckled at first, mistaking it for dry humor. Norton knew better. This wasn't shyness, it wasn't awkwardness, it was total disengagement, so complete it felt hostile by default. Every question Norton lobbed over was met like it had hit concrete. No stories, no warmth, just a man radiating the energy of someone trapped somewhere he didn't want to be. Years later, Norton didn't sugarcoat how bad it was. "I kept thinking, give me something, anything." It was like trying to interview a ghost. Coming from a host who once survived Mark Wahlberg drunkenly climbing into his lap on live television, that admission says everything. And Rourke? He never softened his stance. When asked about the appearance, he shrugged with the same foggy indifference he'd brought to the couch. "Talk shows aren't my thing. I just do them because I have to." No apology, no reflection, not even an acknowledgement that anything had gone wrong. Just casual dismissal, the very attitude that had sunk the interview in the first place. Their feud existed entirely in silence. Norton never invited him back. Rourke never asked to return. And today, their relationship remains exactly what it was that night. Hollow, disconnected, and permanently closed. No warmth, no second chances, no intention from either side to ever try again. And when you look at the wreckage left behind by encounters like these, it's no wonder Graham Norton finally decided to speak up about the guests who weren't just difficult, but genuinely destructive. Who do you think was the most shocking name on his list, and why? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want more deep dive revelations, behind-the-scenes scandals, and untold stories from Hollywood's biggest stages, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell so you never miss an upload.